Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 7-Minute Takeover, where we talk all things acquisitions. My name's Liz, and today we have Nunzio Presta with us, who is the founder of buyandsellabusiness.com, who Village Wellth acquired earlier this year. And we wanted to invite Nunzio on so he could chat about some of the seller's perspective and things that he came through in the sale of his own business. So Nunzio, I'm going to start you off with asking, what was the tipping point for you in deciding to sell your business now?
Yeah, and thanks for having me here, Liz. For me, the tipping point really came down to this alignment between my personal goals and where buyandsellabusiness.com was as far as like the stage of the business and just the opportunity in front of me, just having that conversation with Village Wellth, for example. But I think like for me, if we look back at this, I spent 10 years building the platform, and it wasn't just a platform. It was part of my identity. But over time, I felt like this internal shift, right? Did I take it as far as I could with the resources I had? And I kept on shifting to the answers. Yes, I have. It was thriving. It was doing well. But I knew that for it to truly scale, it needed fresh energy and a different kind of horsepower. So it was one of these honest realizations that, I've said this multiple times to multiple people. It's like, can the same team that builds a business, can that be the same team that scales a business? And I don't think that's always true. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the truth. So it took a lot of self-awareness to understand, okay, well, our team that was fabulous at building this business from 0 to 1, maybe it's not the same team that could actually go from 1 to 10. And that's fine. And so a lot of self-awareness around that and just admitting it. But I think, I also wanted to create, new space to explore new opportunities, right? I've grown as a leader and I'm curious about how I could bring, my entrepreneurial experience into new arenas. So I think for me, selling wasn't, some dramatic overnight decision. It was just a lot of like quiet reflections and long walks and these conversations with some family members and mentors. So there wasn't this like one big aha moment or tipping point. It was more of like this steady buildup where I realized, both the business and myself, we were just ready for the next chapter.
Just ready over time though. But it's important, I think, to your point, that it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't an event, where in a lot of cases with sellers, it is an event, but for you, it was gradual.
Yeah.
And you were ready. And so how long do you think that gradual, from the point of time when you started to think about really being serious about selling your business and actually starting the process, how long do you think that was?
Yeah, honestly, I remember it very clearly. I would say the first 6 years of building buyandsellabusiness.com, we were clawing for growth. We were trying to, pitch this new concept of entrepreneurship through acquisition to an audience that just was unsure of what that space looked like or what it was. COVID set the platform on fire. A lot more people exploring entrepreneurship through acquisition, a lot more people and professionals interested in the micro market. And I saw the momentum and interest in the space, and we kept on growing and growing to the point where, all of a sudden I started to realize, like I said before, I don't think we have the team in place to actually scale this thing or the resources. So let's find some new energy and some new horsepower. And I would say that was like a 2-year realization, like maybe 18 months realization where I'm like, you know what, let's see if there's someone out there who has the energy, resources, the vision, and the horsepower to take what we built and just, bring it to the next level.
Yeah. And it's different for every business owner selling, but it's interesting for you. It was 2 years. It was 2 years of incubating with this thought about, is it the right time or the right people? And so what was important to you in finding the right buyer?
Yeah, I think, I reflect on that a lot too. And it's like trust, full stop, right? I think, yeah, of course, valuation, deal structure, terms, all that stuff matters. But for me, what mattered the most was just knowing that the buyer understood what we built and cared about where it was going, right? It wasn't just about buying some sort of tech platform. This was about buying into a vision. And I needed to feel that the buyer had the integrity and shared values and really saw the potential of the platform as a tool to empower entrepreneurs. And Village Wellth checked all those boxes, right? The relationship never felt transactional. It felt collaborative from day one. So we were definitely aligned in mission and values. And I knew they care for our users and our brand the same way I did. So, another thing was, it wasn't just about maintaining what we built, right? It was always, we wanted someone who would grow it, and that gave me peace. You don't want to watch something that you poured your heart into slowly fade away and disappear. The whole point of selling, aside from any sort of capital or exit amounts that you get out of it, is your legacy. You want to see what you built thrive in someone else's hands and be there forever. Like, that was the most important part for me. I just didn't want to see something disappear. So I think, both trust and in their ability to move and be a good steward of what we've built in the direction that we believed the company would be going, was huge. And it made the whole acquisition journey that much better, right? Especially when you have trust at the foundation.
I absolutely agree with you in trust. I think it's so central to acquisitions in general. And we felt the same way. It was very mutual for us too. Like, from the very beginning of our conversations, we were all rowing in the same direction, and we felt the same about you, as we had this tremendous amount of trust for you and shared passion for what we were all doing in the ETA space and where we saw it going, and that future vision. So no, I love that point about trust. And I think it's sometimes it's overlooked. Like, it's certainly always an element of an acquisition, but for that to be a priority is really, really, really cool. Yeah. Okay, so I want to move on. Were there things that you weren't prepared for in the acquisition process?
Yeah. So I like to be proud of the fact that that I'm emotionally and mentally strong. So I think emotionally, I out the gate thought, I was ready for this. But selling something you poured a decade into is sort of like handing in your jersey after your final game. And it actually brought back a lot of the same feelings that I had for my hockey career. So I'm like, oh, I didn't expect sort of like the grief that came after the exit and the loss of identity. Like, so many people say, you're not your business, and trust me, I get it. I'm one of those people that say that, you're not your business. And that's why I think, buyandsellbusiness.com was a valuable acquisition for Village Wellth as well, is because we did build a very self-sufficient business and brand. But still, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you feel like a piece of your identity disappears when you sell a business, no matter if it's, self-sufficient or not. The business was a big part of so many personal milestones, getting married, having kids. So whether you like it or not, the identity piece is real, and it hits you hard when things go quiet, right? After all the noise of, building and operating and making decisions every day and going through the exit, that silence makes it real. So overall, I don't think I was as ready as I thought I would be for like this wild mix of emotions. Like, it's like pride, excitement, fear, doubt. It's like all rolled into one. And it sort of reminds me of a story of Richard Branson. I think he sold one of his companies, and he said, like, as soon as the deal was done, he was running down the street yelling and screaming and crying. So it's like, but he was happy, but also, there is an element of, like I said, grief or sadness too. But it's a vicious mix. I also think, the due diligence process, right? I think, that was something interesting. I knew like, being in the space and watching other people buy and sell businesses every single day for 10 years. I knew due diligence. It's intense, but I wasn't actually prepared for how personal it would feel for me. So it's like you're peeling back every layer, and it's just not about, it's not just of the business, it's about you as well. So you sort of feel vulnerable and exposed in a way. And even though due diligence is necessary, it still feels invasive to a certain degree. You start asking yourself, did I do everything right? Are they going to find something that I missed? But I think like at the end of the day, if you built with integrity and you built good systems, you come out stronger from due diligence. And I really believe we did. And I feel like I feel like because due diligence, makes you feel so vulnerable, that's another reason why trust is such a massive factor, right? Because you are opening up a lot to a potential, buyer, and that trust factor has to be there. But I think, what surprised me the most moving out of that was how much clarity I gained about my own strengths, right? Like selling the business helped me reconnect sort of with what I truly love, like, the strategy side of business, building systems and operations, the product dev of the business, and just seeing like this idea through from inception to exit, like that full cycle entrepreneurial experience just showed me the kind of leader I want to be moving forward. And selling the business just brought that, to the top for me.
And reminded you of your original starting point.
Yes.
Wow. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Nunzio. That's been, I know, being on this side of your acquisition, we were the ones that took you very deep into due diligence, and it was a process in itself, and there were points and times where we thought, are we doing this? Are we going to go all the way, and are we going to do it? And ultimately we had to make the decision to proceed at various points. And I think I agree. It was that trust in what you had built and the vision you had originally set for the company that made us go all the way with it. So I appreciate you being here and sharing your experience, and maybe there's some tips there for buyers about what sensitivities sometimes a seller can be experiencing while they're going through this process, and being conscious of that. So thank you again, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Liz.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.